Welcome back. Today, food enthusiasts in Metro Atlanta wanting to up their culinary craft can choose from a variety of cooking classes, both in-store and online. One popular destination is the Cook's Warehouse, a store that's both a smorgasbord of cooking appliances and a learning center, offering nearly 1,000 classes every year. Founder and CEO Mary Moore cooked up the idea years ago when trying to work her way out of a jam. Her quest to find a solution would change her life and put her on a path to entrepreneurship. She talks about it in this edition of Executive Profiles with Ed Baker.
So let's begin in childhood. Let's begin in West Georgia with your family roots and where food, if you will, began.
I grew up on a farm west of Atlanta in between Douglasville and Hiram. And we raised broiler chickens early on and had cows and pigs and horses, and we grew all of our own vegetables, most of them, and it was just a family project. We'd sit around in a big circle and shuck peas and beans and take corn off the cob and then put things up, and it was great. It started a very early passion in me for food and cooking. And when I was a kid, I would go to my grandmother's house and she would say, "What do you want to do?" And I would say, "I want to cook something." And so she'd say, "Well, pick a recipe." And she had all these great cookbooks. So I'd pull one out and I'd pick the recipe and we would cook together.
So you really grew up passionately being educated about food from your youth?
I think I started cooking, my mom said, at 3. And I was making fried chicken with her. My family was very supportive. I loved business and I loved cooking. And so I was on the right path from a very early beginning.
So you got out of college and you decided to go into the food service business.
I was putting myself through school and I thought, what can I do in the least amount of time and make the most amount of money? Waiting tables.
Sure.
And that lasted a month. I was intrigued by what was happening in the kitchen. And I told the manager, I put in my notice, I said, "This isn't for me, I don't want to stay." And he came back and he said, "The owner really likes you and she wants you to be here. What do you want to do?" And I said, "I love what's happening in the kitchen. I want to be in the kitchen, work Monday through Friday, and then so I can go to school at night." And he said, "Great." So that's what I did, and that was at Ship Pfeiffer's on Peachtree. And then I went to Partners Morningside Cafe and Indigo Coastal Grill in the Highlands because I realized that I was very serious about food.
So why didn't you stay in the kitchen?
I wanted to have my own business, and after, at that point, almost 7 years or 6 years in the restaurant industry, I understood that I did not want it to be a restaurant. I knew that I didn't want that nighttime lifestyle forever. You know, it's grueling work. I kind of hit the glass ceiling at Partners in Indigo. Not to say there was a glass ceiling, like because I was a woman I couldn't go further. There was just nowhere further to go. I was the top in the kitchen. And Scott Peacock used to come into Indigo all the time and eat dinner, and I'd cook dinner for him a lot. So he called me. He had gone to work at Harry's Farmers Market in research and development, and he said, "I want you to come interview at Harry's." So I interviewed with Harry and got the job, and so I went to work full-time in research and development.
And how does the concept of a Cook's Warehouse surface?
Well, back to Scott, he and I were cooking one weekend in New York for Harry's in the Green Market, and we were on the bus heading into the city, and we were going to do crepes. And I said, "Did you bring the crepe pan?" And then he said, "No, of course." Scott and I go to every cookware store in the city to get a carbon steel crepe pan, very basic, and we went to place after place after place, and nobody had it. And I thought, I can't believe we're in New York and they should have everything. I mean, they had a lot of other cool stuff. We walked out of one of the stores and Scott said, "Let's get a cab because I know the place that will have it." And so we went to Bridge Kitchenware, and Fred Bridge was there, and it was dusty and dirty, and they were kind of grumbly, but it was amazing. It was like the biggest toy store for cooks ever. And of course, we found the carbon steel crepe pan and walked out the door, and I said, "Scott, this is it. I'm going to have a store like this." And it literally was a lightning bolt. I mean, I could feel it to my toes. It was one of those moments.
So you came back, and how long after?
I came back, that was November of '93, and I opened in March of 1995. It was, you know, it was lean in the beginning. I ate a lot of macaroni and cheese. It was tough getting it going, but people were coming to cooking classes right away. And that truly came out of a passion for selling people tools that work and teaching people how to cook.
What are the ones that are the most popular?
The most popular class for all 19 plus years I've been in business, Knife Skills 101.
Absolutely.
And it's amazing. It's a great class. Everybody needs to take that class.
I totally agree.
Yes. Well, it cuts your prep time in half.
Right.
And a lot of people cooking, they're stopped by cooking because it takes too much time.
And along the way, you've been very strategic in terms of partnerships. Sherlock's,
Yes.
as far as wine, Whole Foods.
Doug, who owns Sherlock's Wine Merchant, he started that about 10 years before I started Cook's Warehouse. He approached me about having some space inside of my Amsterdam Avenue store. And I thought that would be interesting to have a wine component. But because of the laws and neighborhood proximity, housing proximity, we couldn't do it there. So he was looking in the marketplace for another location, and he found a space in Brookhaven. So that's how the Brookhaven started and my second location started. And it's been a great partnership.
You're also involved philanthropically. You're deeply
Yes.
involved in this community. Speak
Yes.
to that for a moment and give us the range.
Les Dames d'Escoffier is an amazing group of women. They're women who are professionals in food, beverage, and hospitality. It's funny how a woman's place is always in the kitchen until it becomes a profession. And then all of a sudden it was the men's place. We founded a chapter here in 1996, and we've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars.
What do you tell young female entrepreneurs, or ones that want to be?
Yeah.
What do you tell the next wave of Marys?
I tell them to go for it, to not take no for an answer. I mean, imagine if after the 8th time I was turned down by a bank, I said, I guess this is a bad idea. I'm going to go back to the kitchen. I wouldn't be sitting here with you today. Someone's got to be successful, so it might as well be you, be me. You know, somebody's going to be on top. Why not?
Well, always looking for new ways to engage customers, Mary Moore is bringing the time-honored art of knife forging to the Cook's Warehouse. It's part of a workshop on knife making that's sure to make customers want to slice and dice their way to becoming a master in the kitchen.